We are following a developing story out of Sauk Rapids where police say a second-grade student brought a kitchen knife to school and stabbed 3 other students. It happened at Pleasant View Elementary School just after 7 this morning. Officials say the boy who carried out the attack is just 8 years old. The victims are 8, 9, and 13 years old. 2 of the victims were taken to an area hospital. They have since been released. Officials say all of the injuries are minor. The suspect is now in custody, and police believe the attack was random.
For months, a neighborhood in the Northwest Valley say they have been terrorized by a group of teenagers. The teens have been seen on camera attacking multiple people, even sending one woman to the hospital.
People have called the cops over and over again, but they told us nothing has been done. Those neighbors talked to Fox 5's Cindy Lundeberg, and they say if something isn't done soon, they'll take matters into their own hands.
Stop! Stop!
This is just one of multiple attacks this woman endured.
Let her go! Let her go!
Her foot was injured really bad. They strained her foot and her ankle. They broke her finger on her left hand, swelled her up. Of course, she's terrified.
This video was taken April 27th near Elkhorn in Fort Apache.
About 60 kids came through the gates and just basically rushed everybody. I don't know what actually started everything to turn physical, but we turned around and my wife was being jumped by a group of kids.
Stop! Stop!
It's just chaos. It's pandemonium. These kids are 12.
Beyond this woman being attacked, the teens can be seen picking up baseball-sized rocks and lobbing them at cars and people.
They threw them and they hit my neighbor's wife with a couple of rocks. I know they hit him while he was trying to protect his wife from rocks.
Watch out, baby, watch out! Watch out!
And while this video is shocking, neighbors say this is normal. This particular incident, they say, they just happened to catch on camera.
What you have to realize is the one video where my neighbor's getting beaten by these kids, there was stuff leading up to that. That wasn't a one-time thing.
You can't drive through any one of these streets without them stopping your car. Start reaching in the cars, they start banging on the cars, they stop all the traffic.
Neighbors say they've been dealing with this for 5 months.
It's like this every day. 2 or 3 times a day, there's problems. Police have been up here 2 or 3 times every day. They get groups of these kids on their cars, put them in handcuffs, and 2 minutes later, they're letting them walk again. We know names, we have pictures, we've spoke with parents.
After trying their parents and police, desperate neighbors decided to try the teen's school, Escobedo Middle.
Out to my neighbor, when I found out that she had a student that was afraid to go to school, I thought, well, the school needs to do something.
That didn't work either.
The school said, we're not going to investigate.
Neighbors say they have issues with these kids every single day. They say it's now reached a boiling point.
We're trying to be calm, cool, and collected. Not everybody is so calm, cool, and collected. Somebody's going to do something irrational. It's going to be, man, how could we have prevented that irrational thing from happening?
At this point, they need to hurry up and do something because the people in the neighborhoods are tired. It's a situation where somebody is not going to come back from if it doesn't stop.
Cindy Lundeberg, Fox 5 News, local Las Vegas.
So speaking of millennials all morning long, are they losing their faith? According to a Pew study from 2014, 34% of young people identify now as atheist, agnostic, or no religion at all. That's up about 10% from 2007. Just gives you a sense of the trend.
Our next guest is a pastor who is warning actively that millennials are on the verge of losing all knowledge of God and faith. Joining us now with more on what his organization is doing to combat this trend is Director of RC College Prep and Crosspoint Community Church, Pastor Mike Shepard. Pastor, thanks for joining us this morning. So, I mean, that's a number that would surprise a lot of people. And what is the reason this trend is happening amongst younger people?
Yeah, it's not news anymore. It's old news that seemingly no young adult possesses a biblical understanding of who God is. Somewhere around 6% of adults have what we call a biblical worldview, which is interesting because 90% of Americans still believe that God exists. So the question, why don't they do that? I think it's 2-part. One, they have not been taught faithfully by the older generations, and neither have the older generations lived faithfully. So younger Christians don't know what Christianity is, much less why it's true, and they've not seen from an older generation an authentic lifestyle. I mean, what's the good that is coming from Christianity? And then the cultural attack that exists reinforces that, saying Christianity is irrational and it's immoral, and young adults can't see otherwise because they don't know that God exists, why they should believe that, and they've not seen a pure form of Christianity lived out amongst their parents and grandparents and the broader adult Christian community.
You only have 27%, I think, according to research, that actually go to services. I'm a millennial. I think about what religion a lot of my friends exist with, or what religion they belong to, and it's their iPhones oftentimes. I mean, people just sit on their technology all day long. You could argue that maybe that's a way to connect with the religious community, but in a lot of ways, you're disconnected from it all.
Yeah, one of the things, technology is great, but one of the things that the smartphone has done is it's isolated us. And one of the things we find with the younger generations is an epidemic of loneliness. And so certainly through the smartphone and all of its promises and social media of connectivity, what it's actually done, it's broken that down, and we've actually seen that in the church. You're exactly right.
Today's teenagers are under pressure. Pressure to succeed, pressure to get into a good college, and pressure to be liked. And while that has always been the case, more and more teenagers today are suffering from severe and debilitating anxiety because of it. Now, a psychologist and best-selling author says they are part of a new generation she is calling iGen, the first to spend their entire adolescence on smartphones and social media. KTK investigator Andy Sheehan spoke with her and looks into the growing problem of tech depression and anxiety.
Teenage angst, it's plagued generations in the past.
What is that about? What is that about?
But it's never been more apparent than in this one. In the past 5 years, studies show a sudden and marked increase in teen depression and suicide. And now more than a third of American teens suffer from severe, sometimes paralyzing anxiety.
It's really about just being anxious all the time.
And to find the reason why, you may not need look further than your teen's smartphone. Psychologist Jean Twenge says depression and anxiety in teens began spiking in 2011 and 2012 when more than half of America got one.
And that's exactly when these mental health issues started to spike among teens. When the smartphone became the norm, that's when these mental health issues showed up.
More teens than ever complain of severe loneliness. They've retreated to their rooms at home, spending less and less time out in the real world while diving deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole of their iPhone or Samsung Galaxy. Twenge calls them iGen, the first generation to spend their entire adolescence on a smartphone. Instead of hanging out with their friends in person, teens like Christian Brown communicate through text or social media.
You're interacting with a phone with a human being on it, not an actual living organism, human being. Yeah.
Not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
And through their phone, they become hyper aware of their social status. How many likes am I getting? How many followers on Snapchat and Instagram? Teens constantly compare and rate themselves against others and know when they've been excluded from parties and other social events.
You see them having fun and you realize what am I doing right about now? I'm doing completely nothing and this sucks. Why can't I be there with them? Why can't I do that? And it just brings you down.
And even with those negative results, teens find it hard to disengage. Many are now spending more than 8 hours a day on their phone, a dependency, Twenge says, that is causing kids who might have resolved these feelings in the past to slip into severe depression and anxiety.
Two people instrumental in creating Facebook are now sounding the alarm about what the social media site may be doing to us, and more specifically kids. One former Facebook executive said the short-term dopamine-driven feedback loops that we have created are destroying how society works. No civil discourse, no cooperation, misinformation, mistruth. And former Facebook president Sean Parker said you're exploiting a vulnerability in human psychology. He said the inventors understood this, but they did it anyway. And, as they're sitting on top of all of their money right now, they can now come back and say, oh, man, maybe this wasn't the greatest thing.
We're the worst.
There's a lot of downsides to it, Matt, and I think that we've just created an entire new social construct. The world doesn't work the same way that it did 10, 15 years ago in any way, really.
No, on Facebook, if there's something that you don't like or you don't disagree with, you can just hide it from your view and not have to engage, not have to interact with it. And I do think that can be damaging. Being exposed to opposing viewpoints is good. It can help you change the way you think rather than just hearing the same thing you already think again and again. I totally agree with exploiting that vulnerability in the human construct, though, because it is addicting. Seeing the little red messages pop up, you're like, oh, what did they say? Was that tweet good? Did you like that picture of my child? Let me. And then you
Does
don't
anybody
fall asleep.
care about me?
Yeah.
Is anyone sending me an email?
And we're
What's
all
going
adults.
on?
You look at teenagers. 92% of teens that go online at least 1 up toward 5 times a day, if not more.
Yeah, and I think especially interesting is the research that shows that young people are restless and waking up in the night, and they're grabbing their phone that they have on their kind of nightstand and sending a message or checking Snapchat or whatever. It's very interesting. There are great things about it. It brings the world kind of together.
It makes it smaller, sure.
It makes the world smaller. But I mean, I absolutely, every couple of months, and you guys know like how active I am in social media, every couple of months I think like, I wonder if my life would be richer if I got rid of it.
Because we do have a generation that I think we have raised with a great degree of entitlement, where it's like the world owes me a living. And we picked a perfect example story of a kid that says, I want to be a rock star. I say, kid, he's now 40 years old. I want to be a rock star. And has basically tried to buy fame, has bled his family, his mother and father, for $1.7 million. $1.7 million trying to be a rock star. I mean, he's got the poses, he's got the haircut, he's got everything, but so entitled that he won't take a job because it's not rock star job. And it is just such a poser. And it got to the point where he said, my God is Kiss. My God is Gene Simmons. So I said, you know what? He's a friend of mine. I'm going to bring him on here and let him talk to you about what it takes to get to fame. Because it's not what you think. It's not all bright lights and
right. And when you get there, it's not all bright lights either. I want to introduce the audience to Chris, who's apparently on his way. Watch.
How many women have you had carnal knowledge of?
I don't know, 400 or 500.
Is that part of the rock star lifestyle?
Yeah, that's part of the whole love them and leave them, the persona. Fast cars and beautiful women. So I'm like, I can play the drums and I can play the guitar. I want everybody to come and love it all.
You know, you're such a jerk.
Yeah, well.
Sorry.
I might be a little narcissistic.
You're living with your mother.
Well, yeah, I like to put a spin on everything. Sometimes there's a little bit too much frosting and you need a little bit more cake.
What the hell are you talking about?
You don't understand the rock lingo?
Yeah, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
You're living with your mother.
I mean, this guy's a rock star, right? I mean, he's got all the poses, got all these guitars. He's living on a twin bed in his mother's house.
Oh, ladies,
I mean,
take note.
Yeah.
That when you get spun by a character like this in a bar, the reality is probably that.
You're going home to mama's house.
Yeah, if he wants to go back to your place, there's a reason.
Yeah.
Take it from Dr. Phil.
Yeah, let's go to your house because mine doesn't exist.
What is the bottom line? What do people need to remember? I mean, it's because I meet these people all the time. I don't know how to suck them out of that place. I don't know how to get them out of that dark place.
You know, when you look at America, people sometimes ask me, you know, what's wrong with America? Look, this is the greatest country in the world. It's the greatest people in the world. But sometimes we forget common sense, just simple things that we need to remember. Like, basically, you just don't reward bad behavior. Just think about that. How commonsensical is that? Just do not reward bad behavior.
His mom seemed like a sensible lady. How did she wind up with him?
She needed to figure that out $1.7 million ago. Now she says you are a jerk when she spent all of her retirement money, all of her future. These people are going to have to sell their house and go to work at 70 years old because they've let this ridiculous, entitled kid bleed them of all their retirement and all their security in their autumn years. We've got to stop rewarding bad behavior in America. When people don't work and produce, then they need to get kicked to the curb, get a damn job, carry your own weight. It's just that simple. We need accountability. Stop rewarding bad behavior, hold people accountable, make them carry their own weight. It's just that simple.
Women on average are scoring higher on IQ tests than men are. Even physically, men are falling behind. A recent study found that almost half of young men failed the Army's entry-level physical fitness exam during basic training. Fully 70% of American men are now overweight or obese. That's compared to 59% of American women. Perhaps most bafflingly and terrifyingly, men seem to be becoming less male fundamentally. measurably. Sperm counts, for example, across the West have plummeted. They're down almost 60% since the early 1970s. Scientists don't know why this is. Testosterone levels in men have also fallen precipitously. One study found that average levels of male testosterone dropped by 1% every year after 1987, and it's not related to age. In other words, the average 40-year-old man in 2017 would have testosterone levels 30% lower than the average 40-year-old man in 1987. There is no upside to this trend. Lower testosterone levels in men are associated with depression, lethargy, weight gain, decreased cognitive ability. Nothing like this has ever happened to a population this big. So you'd think we'd want to know exactly why. What's going on? How do we fix it? And yet the media ignore that story. It's considered a fringe topic somehow. Nor is it, believe it or not, a priority in the scientific research establishment. We checked, and we couldn't find a single NIH-funded study on why testosterone levels are falling. We did find a study on, quote, pubic hair grooming prevalence and motivation among women in the U.S., So those are the numbers, and they paint a very clear picture. American men are failing in body, in mind, and in spirit. This is a crisis. Yet our leaders pretend it's not happening, and in fact, they tell us the opposite is true. Women are victims. Men are oppressors. To question that assumption is to risk punishment. Even as women far outpace men in higher education, for example, virtually every college campus supports a women's studies department whose core goal is to attack male power. Our politicians and business leaders internalize and amplify that message. Men are privileged, women are oppressed. Hire and promote and reward accordingly. Well, America has experienced a rapid, in fact, a massive inflation in genders. At one point, biologists were allowed to determine what biology was, and there were two, male and female. Now, there's agender, bigender, two-spirit, hydra, we could go on forever. Literally forever, because the core orthodoxy is that there are infinite genders, but not everyone agrees. Some people believe in science. At their peril, it turns out. Lake Ingle is one of them. He's a student at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. In a religion class, a class about Christianity, he stated his belief that there are two genders because, again, that's biology. And for that, he was told he had to apologize in front of the class, stand silently while they critiqued him for the education camp stuff. Lake Ingle joins us tonight. Lake, thanks for coming up.
Thanks for having me, Tucker.
So I don't know if I was mischaracterizing that. You had this professor called Allison Downey who was so threatened because you disagreed with her that she tried to get you to sign some form apologizing for your unorthodox, non-allowed thoughts. And then what happened?
Right, yeah, she asked that I would sign a document complying with her asking me to apologize to the class as well as giving her a written apology. She asked that I would stand in front of the class in silence as I apologized, and then they would give any comments on my outbursts.
Did she say what specifically she was so offended by?
She didn't like the fact that I disagreed with the subject being pushed in class being more than one gender, male privilege, systemic sexism, and mansplaining.
Is mansplaining a measurable thing? I mean, is it a like species of social science studying mansplaining? What is mansplaining anyway? Do you know? Did you learn?
I'm not sure. I think it's any time a man speaks, really.
Huh.
And
so
no, it isn't measurable.
What did you? Right. I mean, it's a species of dumbness, really. So, but what did you? It's propaganda. What did you say about gender that made her so mad, specifically?
Well, I first referenced entities like The Economist who have debunked the myth of the 77 cents on the dollar wage gap. And I also stated that biologists don't agree that there are more than two genders. They don't believe that there are 72 genders or more across the board. Most of them disagree, and she really didn't appreciate that.
So by citing the longstanding view of biologists, the hard scientists, Allison Downey, who supposedly, you say she's a professor, tried to get you to stand in front of the class and take abuse. Did you do that?
No, I didn't. I was supposed to, but she really didn't give me a chance. I was given 10 days to comply, but the day after she asked this of me, she decided to push it on through to the university's provost office to then hold a hearing, which would decide whether or not it could be allowed in class, period.
Why do you go to this school, or why does anybody go to this school or any other school? I mean, what are you getting out of this exactly?
Well, I initially went for athletics my freshman year, but that's a long gone dream now. I'm pretty much just stuck here.
Man, I wish I could hire you. I would encourage you and anyone else who has any experience like this to drop out and join the workforce. It's not worth it. This is a joke. It's a bubble, and we're all going to realize that in 10 years. Like, you're a brave man for coming on. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.
It has happened all too often. A troubled teenager gets his hand on a weapon and lives are changed forever. But why? On the Record investigates, and as Fox's Douglas Kennedy found out, the trail can often lead right to the medicine chest.
2 years ago, 16-year-old Corey Badsgard took a rifle to his high school and held 23 classmates hostage. Describe around that time how you were feeling.
In the morning, I didn't feel like going to school. I felt sick, didn't feel like really, like I could get up very well. And so I went back to bed, and next thing I remember, I'm in juvie in the detention center where I used to live.
Just one more apparently unexplainable violent outburst at school. Unexplainable to everyone but Corey's dad. So in your mind, there's no doubt what happened here?
No doubt that the medication did this. I mean, he had amnesia, hallucinations earlier, abnormal dreams, which are all side effects of the medication.
That morning, Corey was on a mix of antidepressants prescribed for what doctors called situational depression. His father says the pills turned Corey from a sensitive teenage boy to a volatile marauder, susceptible to blind rage.
He was never a violent kid. I mean, he's always been a good kid, loved us, hugged us all. He's never watched violent videos, and until the medication, he started, after that, then we realized that he was having aggression problems and, was out of character.
At Fox News, we found the Badsgard story with antidepressants compelling, so we investigated further. We found a disturbing number of recent school shooters were either on medication or were experiencing withdrawal.
One of the things that in the past we have known about depression is that it very, very rarely leads to violence. It's only been since the advent of these new SSRI drugs that we have murderers, sometimes even mass murderers, taking antidepressant drugs.
Get ready to unlock a new world by joining us for 12 days of peace, friendship, and adventure at the 24th World Scout Jamboree. What makes this World Scout Jamboree so special? It's an experience like none other, with wild and wonderful adventures like rock climbing, mountain biking, skateboarding, zip lining, whitewater rafting, and
sex. Just weeks after the controversial name change of the Boy Scouts to the Scouts, more controversy is following the organization after they made the announcement that condoms will be made readily available to all participants of their 24th annual Jamboree. The Jamboree, which is held every 4 years, attracts tens and thousands of Scouts from all over the world, ranging from 14 to 17 years of age. And not only will they be providing condoms to the kids, they'll also be providing alcohol to the parents of the Scouts in specified locations. John Stenberger, chairman of the Board of Trail Life USA, an alternative scouting organization, said it is not clear how far down the rabbit hole the Boy Scouts will continue to fall. All of this should be deeply disturbing to the churches that are chartering Boy Scout troops. And these policies present a clear youth protection problem that the BSA absolutely refuses to recognize. The fact that they are requiring that condoms be readily accessible and are communicating this to everyone, including youth participants, shows that the BSA is both anticipating and facilitating sexual conduct between minors at this event. These policies are both outrageous and completely irresponsible. So with this issue, I know a lot of people are going to argue that, we're helping kids have safe sex and, the seed is already planted in their minds. They're already going to be out there doing it. But for me personally, I just don't see how it's a good idea. If we're giving kids the opportunity to have birth control and condoms readily accessible, that's just going to promote more of the sex culture, and it's going to give them that opportunity to go out there and have sex with whoever they want. I mean, we're really normalizing it here in America. Shouldn't we be teaching our kids not to have sex as opposed to giving them the tools to continue to have more sex? With the Boy Scouts, a traditionally Christian organization, it's really interesting to see how far they've fallen from grace. As Stenberger pointed out, how far down the rabbit hole are they going to fall before they finally put a stop to this and, stop being victims to liberal America?
7,203,030 views. I mean, almost 30,000 likes. It's frightening.
Millions of people watch YouTube videos like this every day. But the Cinnamon Challenge causes those who attempt it to choke. Some were rushed to the hospital, and at least one person, a 4-year-old Kentucky boy, died. And it doesn't stop there. Doctors say the Kylie Jenner challenge can damage blood vessels in your lips.
The condom snorting challenge is the latest teen trend causing concern among the medical community. Teens are taking to the internet to post videos of themselves snorting a condom up one nostril and inhaling it until it, hopefully, reemerges into the mouth, putting themselves at risk of choking. Dr. Robert Glatter, an emergency physician at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York City, told CBS News, quote, "Even if you successfully complete the challenge and pull the condom out of your mouth, the bottom line is that it's incredibly irritating and a good chance it will wreak havoc on your sinuses, nasal passages, and upper airway."
Laundry detergent pods may be the perfect example of the danger of first impressions.
This right here is very colorful. It looks like it could be candy or something that tastes good.
But they don't. And yet, in hundreds of videos shared millions of times, teenagers are challenging each other to eat them.
16-year-old Amy Joyner of Delaware died last week after being beaten in her high school bathroom. A student allegedly recorded the attack with a cell phone and shared it on social media. Senior Zuleida Zayas attended a vigil for Joyner.
Social media plays a big part in a lot of what's going on nowadays. You know, it's cool to record a fight. It's cool to be on social media because of fight. And I think that's where a lot of us mess up.
In Ohio last week, this 18-year-old allegedly live-streamed the rape of a 17-year-old girl on the app Periscope. She faces up to 40 years in prison for charges including the illegal filming of a minor. In March, near Tacoma, 3 teenagers were charged with raping a 15-year-old girl and posting it on Snapchat, an app with more than 100 million daily users.
So this is how Snapchat works. You can take video or even pictures. Before I send the video, I can choose from a number of filters. This one will show you just how fast I'm going.
Last year, 18-year-old Crystal McGee from Atlanta allegedly used this speed filter to take a selfie and show her friend she was driving 107 miles per hour. Moments later, she crashed into a driver who was seriously injured. McGee survived but continued to post pictures of herself while on a stretcher with the caption, "Lucky to be alive."
I have heard teenagers say that things don't feel real till you see them on social media. That things don't feel real till you see them on social media.
The question is, when you were in school, how did you learn how to do math? Do you remember that far back?
I taught my son to count playing blackjack.
Nice.
Seriously.
Nice.
I did.
But remember, when you're in first grade, it was like memorization. 1 + 1 is 2. 2
Oh, it
+
had
2
little
is
flash
4.
cards.
Yeah, exactly. Flashcards. Well, I'm about to show you a Common Core question that proves why it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And keep in mind, this is for a first grader. Basically, it's 8 + 7.
Instead of "Are you smarter than Polly?" it's "Are you smarter than a first grader?" We'll all flunk this.
Exactly. Are you ready? The question is
sure.
8 + 7. You ready to take a look?
8 + 7.
Yeah. Okay, so here's your...
What the?
Exactly. So 8 plus... Underline the number which is closest to 10. So in this case, it would be the
10.
8. That's closest to 10 in 8 + 7. Step 2, draw an arrow from the underlying number to the area below the remaining number. So the arrow goes underneath the 7. From the underlying number to a 10, how many spots do I need to go? Record that number at the end of the arrow. So in this case, from 8 to 10, it would be 2. So you put the 2 down there and you draw a line from the circle. I mean, what? This is the most... to come up with 15. It's 15. I mean, there's 6 steps to come up with 8 + 7 = 15 with circles and arrows, and I don't even... What? I'm in my 40s and I can't get this.
Why? That's my question.
I know! Why? For a first grader.
Cover up the 7. This number is no longer there.
Yeah.
It has been decomposed into a 2.
And 5. Look at these 3 remaining numbers. Circle the 2 numbers that make a 10, 8, and 2. Write a 10 fact below the original program. Use the hidden 0 strategy. Cover up the 0 and the 10 to find the total sum. Record the sum in the line in the box. What? I prefer the flashcards. I mean...
Well, I don't see how that teaches you 8 + 7 = 15.
I mean, I don't know about you, but that is the most ridiculous. If I had a first grader in school right now, there'd be tears over homework, and it wouldn't be from my daughter.
It makes my head hurt. Yeah, what was that you cried over?
I don't know.
Kids' homework. Oh my God, she's crying over kids' homework.
It probably was science because I sucked at science. But if I had that math, there would be tears. That's just the most confusing. Why are we teaching our kids that? I don't get it.
A lot of young children can't tell time. Yes, a recent survey found that 80% of 6 through 12-year-olds in Oklahoma can't read an analog clock.
So all that's done. Now, we are down to our public comment time. I would like to recognize Mrs. Karen Lamoureux, who has 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chairman and the board. My name is Karen. I'm a mother of 3 in the Pulaski County Special School District. I am here today not speaking just on behalf of myself. I'm here representing 1,110 other parents, educators, and taxpayers in our state who have some very serious reservations about the Common Core Initiative. We are not alone in this regard. 6 other states have pulled out of their park agreement. 22 other states currently have legislation pending to either get out of Common Core or to make significant changes to it. After listening to what was said this morning, I have come to the conclusion that this board is clearly as uninformed as the parents are or were when these standards were adopted. We were told the same thing that you were told, and that Common Core is a set of rigorous, college-ready, internationally benchmarked standards that prepare our kids to compete in a global economy. This is nothing more than an empty sales pitch for corporations and government agencies to profit from our kids and sell them downriver in the name of saving education. I have a math question for you, board members. Are you ready? Get your pencils out. I'm not kidding. Are you smarter than a Common Core 4th grader? Let's find out. The problem is, Mr. Yamada's class has 18 students. If the class counts around by a number and ends with 90, what number did they count by? I'll restate the problem. Mr. Yamada's class has 18 students. If the class counts around by a number and ends with 90, what number did they count by? Does anyone on the board have an answer? 5. And may I ask, madam, how did you come up with that answer? You know why? Because that's what makes sense, right? That's the way we were taught to do it in the 4th grade level. This, however, is what the Common Core standards expect our 4th graders to do. If they solve it in those 2 steps, they get it marked wrong. They are expected to draw 18 circles with 90 hash marks, solving this problem in exactly 108 steps. Board members, this is not rigorous. This is not college ready. This is not preparing our children to compete in a global economy. Skipping rote memorization of multiplication tables is hindering their ability to master long division and fractions later on in the semester. And now our children who were testing in the 80th or higher percentile in math last year are now coming home with C's, D's, and F's on their report cards. Not because, as Arnie Duncan would put it, that white suburban mothers think their children aren't as brilliant as they thought they were, but because, thank you. I encourage you to listen to us when we send you our emails, despite the comments that were made by our chairperson here today. Our concerns are not based on hysteria or propaganda. They are based on fact, and we are prepared to present those facts. Can you see the trembling in my voice? Parents have not had a voice here, and you need to listen to our concerns. We are moving forward with our legislature to make some very serious changes to this, and all I ask is that you bend your ear and take us seriously. We are college-educated parents. I come to you with 12 years of college education and a former member of the National Honor Society when I tell you this is not working, and it's not what they told you it would be. We will save the privacy concerns and the testing concerns for our legislature. But when it comes to standards, that's your ball court, and we need you to help us with this because this program is dumbing our children down. Thank you.